Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ellen. So today we're gonna have fun. We're gonna do some really cool ocean type, shell doodles using some rustic colors, grays, blues, browns, all that fun stuff. Also using a white gel pen, some salt, gouache, gold paint, everything in the kitchen sink. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. This is super fun, super easy, any skill level, and you can get really creative with all the patterns and all that kind of fun stuff. So it becomes a lot of fun. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. Also check out my Patreon. I have ad-free videos, traceables, exclusive tutorials on Thursdays, and a live stream on the top tier. It's just a place people go and support my channel. We also have a Facebook page where we do weekly challenges and monthly giveaways. And you can check it out in the description box. There's a link there. So without further ado, let's get doodling some ocean shells. Okay, so for this tutorial, let's go over supplies. I'll be using the Fabriano block. It's 100% cotton cold press. I put a link in the description, and all the supplies are in my shop. These supplies link in my description. I have a new color I just added in here, indigo. I use it every now and then. I'm going to be playing with little salt, kosher salt. I'm using flat wash brushes, just a loose floppy brush. This is a number 12 Neptune series. And when we get more serious, when we're adding in other things, I'll either be using my 8 long round from Velvet Touch or just the 12 Aqua Elite, just a simple brush. I'll also be using probably my Sharpie ultrafine point pen, maybe my fountain pen, I don't know. We're gonna play around with that. And if you have like a white gel pen, feel free to use that, or white gouache. There we go. So let's just mix up some color. There's a lot of wet on wet we're going to start with. I have my flat wash brush here. I can use a bigger one. And I'll be playing with some browns and some blues. That's why I have the indigo here. This really kind of deep indigo blue color. Grays, Paynes gray. And we're playing with all these colors. So you can start to get the paper wet. I already have a tint of gray on my brush. I can start to add in some browns. We'll just be playing with this. So we're going to be adding some browns. See how wet that is? Really wet. Some grays, some blues. If you want your blues even darker, I'm adding in some Paynes gray to my blue. We don't want this super dark. So I'm just kind of mushing it around. Grabbing some burnt umber. You can use whatever color works for you. Burnt sienna. I'm going to grab some more Paynes gray. And that's just kind of like sitting there. And I'm just going to get some water and move it around. It's very wet. Grabbing the water and moving it around. Just like this. Now you could have got the whole paper wet and just kind of bled the color that way. Sometimes it's better that way. Sometimes not. Just playing around with moving the color around. Grabbing some blue. Don't worry if it goes off the page and goes down on the ground. I'm gonna get some more brown over in here. Just play around. Think of like rustic coastal colors, grays and browns and blues. That's what I'm saying. It might not make them super dark in the beginning. We're gonna start off light. This will dry lighter. Now it's kind of pooling here. We can kind of just move this pigment around, play around with moving the pigment around by lifting it up and just tossing and turning it. Just getting this whole thing wet and just adding color. I want a little more brown in some of these areas. Tippy tap, or you could splatter the color. Might take some brown, splatter some of it. If that brush doesn't work for you, use like a floppy brush, like the number 12 Neptune series. It's a great floppy brush. There's some lilac on that brush. Ooh, it's very, very wet. So like maybe some Paynes gray and brown. Splatter it. Thicker paint won't splatter as much. It won't bleed as much. I'm gonna get some thicker paint here. Another thing I didn't mention in the beginning is that you could have some gold paint splattered in here. It kind of does this like separation kind of thing with the gold. This little area is kind of dipping, so it's pooling. I might lift up a little color here. But gold paint is great. If you don't have gold paint, maybe you have gold ink. I have gold ink, but I can't get the cover off. And this is really thick. It's almost like gouache. I have to really kind of try and loosen this paint up. My brush, get a little aggressive, which is not my favorite thing to do with paint. And the gold is kind of really pretty. Little splatters, bigger splatters, all that fun stuff. So we have our first wash going in here. Clean up my brush. Maybe I'll add a little blue down in here. Just want the page to be all filled in this time. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Now at this point, we're gonna let it dry. We can add some salt. Mine's not as thick. You can get bigger, thicker kosher salt. Just plop it around. And you're gonna have to sit back and just let it dry on its own. Go have some coffee. Go watch a little TV. Put some music on. Do a little dance. Just putting the salt all around here. Okay. Let's see what happens. You can also just, I'm going to splatter some. When you take a smaller brush and splatter it, like the long round, I'm going to grab some Paynes gray, loosen that up. It's fairly thick. It won't move as much. I know. Fun, huh? You could do it with blue too, but I like the gray. It has a little teeny little splatters. Just like that. Little splatters. Also, if you have white gouache or white ink, that's fun to use as well. That will do like the same thing that the gold paint was doing. Just gonna grab some white gouache here. Sometimes I forget things as I go. I paint intuitively, so I just kind of paint as I go. I'm like, oh yeah, the white gouache. Can't always remember everything. Just getting it loose. It's a little too loose. Okay. Ooh, yeah. Leaves a great look. All right, now we have to sit back, let this all dry, and I'll come back. See all this kind of cool stuff that's happening? Which you want those cauliflower bleeds in certain places. We want all this fun texture. Look at that. This is beautiful. We want this. I know some people are like, I don't like it, but no, we want this for this particular exercise. All right, so I'm gonna have to wait till it dries because this is very, very wet in here. And we'll come back. I already love the texture as it is. One thing you can also do for texture, you can crumple up the paper towel. It also helps dry it. You kind of twist it where it's kind of wet and give it a little texture that way. It's kind of fun. A little tippy texture, very light. Gives it a nice little texture. Just another thing to think about. All that good stuff. Okay, now that it's dry, it kind of looks like snowflakes, right? In some of these areas, removing some of the salt. We're going to be drawing in our shells and our fun stuff. So if you don't know how to draw a shell, let's just go over this real quickly. Let me grab the pen so you can see. Okay, just got to make my Sharpie. For a scallop shell, kind of have to picture like a V, but don't connect it. So there, and then you pull it here and kind of go like that, right? And then you're making like a half circle, but here you're making little scallops. Get it? Scallop edge. And then here you do the same thing, and then you're kind of connecting the scallop edge where it kind of indents right into the center of this little, and this is kind of sad looking, but you can do a better one than that. See? And you just go like this. Now for clams clamshell can look like this. Whooping. Get that movement of like whoop-a-doo, and then you have the lines, right? There's all kinds of other shells like a periwinkle, curlicue. You can make it as big as you want. Go out like this and back in. And then here you have the little ridges. Go look at some shells online. If you have shells, I think I have shells some around. And you can create all kinds of cool looking shells. You know, it doesn't have to be like the sea urchin. And you can make patterns. Starfish. There's all kinds of shells. Those ones that look like this. Squiggle, squiggle, squiggle. And then they have an opening in the bottom here. Right? Maybe that's a little bit bigger. And there's ones that kind of look like have a clam kind of shell. Then there's the big conch shells. You know, all kinds of mussels kind of look like this. Right? And then they have the ridges go like this. So what you're going to do, you're going to take your shells that you have that you want to draw. You can find pictures of all over the internet. I'm going to grab my pencil, and you're just going to try to draw where you want to put the shells, right? So maybe here I'll have my scallop type of shell. Just figure out where I'm going to put that. And put a couple, kind of like going like this. Whoop. The pencil doesn't want to work for me right now, or it does. The paper doesn't want to. And think about the sea urchin. You can think about a clam. So you could either draw it in with the marker, like this. Here's the Sharpie, right? We could just, let's pretend that we're going to draw a starfish. I have my other fish here. This is where the fun comes in. See, I'm just drawing a simple starfish. Just like that. And then we could start to play with adding in all kinds of textures and lines. So I'm doing like these little fuzzy little lines coming out of it. And you can get really detailed with some lines in here. Just going like this. All right, and you can make some little funky lines coming from it. Doesn't have to be this perfect little starfish. See, I'm putting these little funky lines. This is going to be almost like a doodle for you. Look at that. Look how cool that is. Same with the sea urchin. Let's do a little sea urchin kind of thing. It's like a circle. Maybe you can put like another circle. Oh, I drew a sand dollar before. That wasn't a sea urchin. So this can be kind of a sea urchin, like with the lines. Ah, brain fog. Just put these little funky lines. So I love using the Sharpie. It's my favorite markers to use. And it's permanent, so be warned. Right? So then we can do some that are drawn, some that are not drawn. And we can take our brushes. So I'm going to take a Princeton 8 long round, or if you want a bigger brush, use a 12 or something. And we'll start to play and putting in some color. So I've got the browns and the grays. I'm loosening up my Paynes gray, and that indigo all over again over here, and the brown. So the scallop, maybe I'll make it more blue. I'm going to put another wash of color. It's a little too dark for me, my taste. I want it a little less dark. So really kind of light. And you can just kind of do the wiggles if you want to do the wiggles, or just not have the wiggles. And just fill in that shape with the color. And you can bleed in some browns. And then we go back over that with the Sharpie. See, we're going to paint in some of these. It's just kind of like a doodle in a way. To the wiggles. See, now you see that one. For the clam blue. Now I love this thing happening here, so maybe I didn't want to put that there. I want to keep that wonderful texture. So maybe I put the clam down here. I don't want to wreck the texture. If I paint over it, it's gone. And that would make me sad. So I'm just going to paint the clam kind of here. Grabbing some indigo. Can bleed some of that in. Paynes gray, whatever works for you. A little of this brown. Rustic colors. The indigo is great for like the mussel color, oyster, you know, all these simple shells. Right now it's just a simple shape. We're going to make it more interesting. Again with the scallop shell. I'll do more indigo. Just get however interesting you want it to be. Just fill it in with this color. So it's kind of like doodles, pretty much. And you could be using a gel pen. We'll do that when it's dry. Like right now that's just a solid blue. Maybe I'll add in some brown. Bleed in some brown, maybe some Paynes gray as well. Don't be afraid to like do some little splattering and touches like we did here in these shapes themselves too. Kind of fun. They don't have to be one particular look. Kind of grab some of this brown. Go on my little sea urchin. Giving it some color. Maybe add some gray here. In the center, some out in the outline. See? We're playing. It's fun to play. It doesn't have to be like this perfect shape too. You can make it like kind of wonky. See? I'm going to go back in here and add these little lines. They could be a little bit thicker too. I mean, not thicker, wider. This, you know, the starfish could have a color. Going in some brown. Maybe add a little bit of yellow. You can change it up a little bit. And you can wait till this color dries and go and add another color. Got that sea urchin. Playing around. Now we could also do something where we have the shape here. I'm grabbing some Paynes gray, and we're going to paint the negative part of it underneath here. So outside of this area of the sea urchin kind of guy, I'm adding some Paynes gray and then kind of blending it outward. Some blue. You see? I'm going to grab some water. Kind of mush that paint. Get it even darker still. Just a couple ways to have fun with this. Woo. See? Right around that. They're kind of sticking out now, right? You're painting the background, the negative space. Not everywhere. So now you have lines, you want it to blend. You just grab water on your brush and kind of blend it, see? It doesn't look like it's a line. It just goes right into the actual background. And you're going to do this to all the ones you feel like you want to do it to. Grab some brown. I don't want to lose too much of that other texture. So you get to play around with that. And like I said, you put little periwinkles. So I can draw like a periwinkle. Right? Other little lines that connect it. It's kind of fun. You can put even more designs inside them. You know, I might do little designs here. This is where you can get some good quality, relaxing doodle time. It doesn't always have to be this perfect little shell. Just be something cute like that. Kind of paint on one side. Kind of add a little blue, a little darker in here. Leave some of this lighter. And again, take some indigo or Payne's gray, whatever you've got. And you can paint kind of the outside of this. Grabbing water, you hear that clank, it was water. You want this to all kind of blend nicely. Brown. I don't want to wreck my beautiful white kind of funky stuff in here, but if I do, I'll have to just kind of like move it around, mush it. Look how cool that looks. So this is still a little damp, you can't put marker on it yet. But that's what you're going to do. You're going to go around to all the spaces. It doesn't have to be everywhere, all over the page, you know. Put some shells. Gonna do like another starfish kind of sticking in here. And the brown. Could have more scallops around. Play around with it. You can have like coral kind of thing happening too. So I'll take my indigo and go like, grab some more indigo. Here we go. So funky little coral, just wiggling. Gotta get this looser wet. So it looks like little coral. Here it's gonna bleed because it's wet. But you get the idea. Just painting this little wiggly coral. You know, make it interesting. Put some circles. This is like a doodle. Have fun with it. Put some more coral over here. There's just wiggle lines, like little branches, right? And they can get darker or lighter. Grab some brown. Put that in there too. Doesn't have to always be blue. You can grab, make it a little bit darker in some places, just by tapping it. Can have a lot of fun creating the coral. This is very therapeutic in my mind. Connect it. Kind of just go like that. You're wiggling. And some coral. Right? I'll probably do it in a couple of places. You can even go over your shells too. So maybe I'll go over this shell. And this shell. Don't have to just keep it separate. You know, you can really go to town just putting it on top of things. Make it interesting when you're playing with your painting. Now you could also do some white ones. That could be kind of cool. If you want to color, do a color. Maybe they wouldn't be pointy. Mine's a little pointy with this brush. Maybe if you use a rounder brush, it won't be so pointy. So I'm trying to just soften the points on some of these coral. Kind of cool, right? You can even have longer ones. So, like you can have take like a greenish color. So I'm grabbing my yellow. Got some green. I'm adding brown to it, so it's not such a super bright green. It's like an olive green, seaweed. See? Really interesting. It's a lot of fun. You want to put fish in it? Put fish in it. There are no rules on how this is supposed to go. It's just kind of like having fun. Right? Just some kind of cool. So now that this is, I have a yellow. I have a white gel pen, but it might not work well. We'll see. And you can use this. Oh yeah, see? For all your little lines. Instead of using a brush, this would be a lot easier. And do some fun stuff with it. Dots is the scallop. You need to play with stuff. So here, this is like the starfish, doing some dots, right? And even on the sea urchin. Look at that. Go to town with the gel pen, with the marker. See, I'm loving the gel pen. As you can tell, I'm going a little nuts because it's fun to use. I'm just tapping, getting those little dots in there, but the dots, oh, see my my coral kind of went out. Just loving the gel pen on the coral and on the shells. You can put this everywhere. You know, make little circles. Kind of like bubbles. That's kind of cool, right? I'm gonna fix my shell here. The scallop. So it might get a little translucent. Depends on your gel pen. All these little dots here on this little periwinkle type shell. And then you can go into the clam. It doesn't have to be white. It could be blue. It's kind of fun to play with. Isn't it? And you could take your blue colors as well. So I'll go back in and grab some Paynes gray and a little of that indigo. Like I said, play around with punching up some of these areas. Get more blue. It blends into the coral. Or if you want it more gray. So I'm doing a lot of blues. Let's get some grays in there. Right, on the shells. Get that Paynes gray. Can even get really dark. And we'll highlight that shell area. All this fun stuff you can do if you play with your paints and some markers. Right? Even get really dark. Just really like right out of the tube. Have a blend in there. Starfish. Just like that. Just a star. You can make it a little pointier if you want. I didn't do. I thought I was saying sea urchin. I was like, I didn't do a sand dollar, but please do some sand dollars. But I like the starfishes, so I'm gonna add a bunch of those. Go right over the coral. And you can overlap them too. Doesn't have to just be like starfish here, starfish there. We can overlap them. I'm going to put some more seaweed. I know it's just kind of silly, but it all kind of has fun. seaweed, the green, making mine kind of more olivey. Add more shells on top of shells. I mean, go crazy. You want to have some glaze looking, so maybe a scallop shell over here. Or just the shape of it. Playing around with glazing, which is basically color upon color. You don't have to do that. I don't even know if I like that, so maybe I'm just going to paint over this whole thing. See? The fun you can have. Just kind of painting over all of it so it's kind of muted. Maybe get it a little bit darker on one side. That's nothing we didn't do. We can get one area kind of really dark. See? And just go in and add some white. Keeping the brown still. Going underneath these little starfishes with the dark color. The negative part of it. And then you just blend it out here around the coral. So one section is a little bit darker. You know, I'm playing with it a lot, but you get what I'm saying. All right? And you can add some Paynes gray. So this is very wet on wet in here. Going around the shell, really dark. So when that's dry, you can go add some more light white kind of markings. Or while it's still wet, if you take your white gouache, you can play around with that. So here's the white gouache. Getting it activated. And just tap it. And see it bleed. It will do its thing. If it's wet, really wet, it will even bleed more. Lots of fun. Lots of fun. So you can just keep moving this around, moving it back and forth and around. Grab some white. Just, you know, have fun with this. It's like one big doodle. Gel pens are fun. As you can tell, I'm going to town with the gel pen. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. I hope you have a fantastic day. Let's move this drawing out of the way. Take care, and I will speak to you soon.